What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Rated M for Mature, Digital Chumps' very own video game podcast. I'm your host, Alex Tudor, and we have a very special episode laid out for you all today, including our Horizon Forbidden West review. That's a big one. Big shakeups in the industry, and so much more. As always, I'm joined by my illustrious co-host and certified lover boy, Ben Sheen. Ben, welcome back, my friend. It's a new season.
It is.
You know, we're here.
It doesn't get any easier.
No, it doesn't get any easier. It
Yeah.
really doesn't. But we're here. Shit has happened.
So much of the shit.
So much of the shit has happened. Game of the Year happened. Went to It Takes Two.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Horizon.
No, I mean, it's a Game of the Year contender, but we'll be talking about that. But It Takes Two won Game of the Year.
Yeah.
That was a huge surprise.
Weird. I feel like that's not right. I disagree with it.
I do too. I think Returnal should have won, but...
Yeah. My game of the year was Guardians of the Galaxy. But It Takes Two was a great game.
It Takes Two was a phenomenal game. But yeah, man, like a lot of things have been happening. We're going to be talking about a lot of things here, including the big shakeups in the industry. So let's start off with the big news over the last 2 months. Acquisitions. Microsoft and Sony alike have made seismic moves that completely alter the landscape of the gaming industry. Microsoft, looking to further their encroaching grasp and owning everything you know and love, moved to purchase Activision Blizzard for an astounding $68.7 billion. While Call of Duty is certainly the prize jewel, Microsoft now owns the rights to the beloved PlayStation classics, Crash Bandicoot, and Spyro the Dragon. Not to be outdone, Sony made waves in purchasing Destiny and Halo creator Bungie for the bargain price of $3.6 billion. Now I know what you're thinking, and yeah, I'm thinking it too. Why can't I get any of that dough? Well, maybe if we stop shelling out hundreds of dollars every month in microtransactions for these games, maybe we wouldn't feel so bad about these mega corporations buying our childhood classics. Yes, none of these moves happen overnight. And yes, all of the things we know and love are being bought up by only one or two mega corporations, where eventually they'll be the only players in town. But isn't it just a bit exciting to see what may come from all of this? I know I love following the evolution of the game industry, and I have for years now. This is just another seismic shift in an industry that only seems to survive on seismic shifts. But Ben, what are your thoughts on these acquisitions? What are we going to see in the future?
For one, that was beautifully written. Good job, man.
Hey, you know, I try to do something special for the season.
All right, so my thought when I saw the Call of Duty Activision thing was just like, oh God, that's crazy. Because it is insanely crazy that a company is just going to put up $70 billion. How much was the Disney thing? So when they bought LucasArts?
When they bought Lucas, off the top, it was like less than 20 billion. It was like 15 or something like that.
And I don't know. I think my overriding thought this whole time has been that's so much stake in the industry that Microsoft owns. Yeah. That is a lot of studios that they now have, a lot of franchises that they own, especially considering that Activision was one of the first, if not like the first big publisher in gaming.
I mean, the first. I mean, it was like, what, Pitfall.
Pitfall,
and, you know.
Think of all those games that they've put on like their little arcades in Call of Duties and stuff. You've got Pitfall, so now they have an Uncharted competitor. Yeah. They have Spyro and Crash, which is weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, are they even going to try and do Toys to Life now? Are they going to let all these studios free? Is World of Warcraft finally going to make its way to a console? It's all very confusing and very strange.
Right.
And I know people want to think of the Sony thing as a response to that, but obviously these deals, all of them have been going on for like half a year or more.
Right.
So it's weird seeing it all play out. And then I'm wondering, what else has been going on that we're going to hear about in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah.
I mean, Sony, I don't know if since we've been on or been off, if they had gotten From Software, or not From Software, sorry.
Yeah.
I wish.
Yeah. Oh, I wish.
Housemarque and Bluepoint. I can't remember.
I think, so they had Housemarque for sure because they announced that purchase, I think I want to say in like August
Yeah.
or something like that. Bluepoint, I think, since we've done this show, they've announced that they have also acquired Bluepoint.
Yeah, but I just see now Microsoft is going to be, when this falls through, well, again, and I feel like so many people have forgotten the Activision Bobby Kotick sexual harassment tornado.
Yeah, that was a huge part of it. It wasn't just Bobby Kotick. It was like everybody else.
Well, of course, like
Top down, yeah.
He's going to be making so much money whether he stays or not, and it sucks and it's disgusting, but that's capitalism.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I am kind of excited about Sony getting Bungie because I think that's going to help them turn some of their biggest franchises into multiplayer, like live service games, or help with these studios that they've sort of been working with, like Jade Raymond's studio, I think Jason Blundell's studio, like they've announced like exclusive games with Sony, and I feel like if they're going to have these live service games, it's probably primarily going to be from those sources.
Right.
Yeah, we assume a Last of Us multiplayer is going on.
Last of Us Factions, which still hasn't oddly been announced. Like I thought that would have been shown off. We know they're working on something.
It's been 2 years almost since part 2, so I don't know. Horizon, I mean, you just played that, and I feel like maybe they've done a lot of groundwork. 5 years in between the games, like it could happen.
Right. So Horizon, that's an interesting point, and I'm sure eventually we'll have more conversations when more people are able to play the game.
Yeah.
A live service Horizon game would be pretty cool because even if you have only played the first game, and we'll talk about the review here in a little bit, but there's so many different tribes and everything. Like if you could choose your own tribe and kind of live, and they're so different from each other that you can really kind of focus into classes based on the tribe.
Right.
That would be fascinating. I hope they don't do it, but I kind of do. That's a conversation we'll have later on. But the acquisition thing is astounding. You know, the Bungie acquisition almost makes sense for Sony.
It does.
Right? Destiny has been such a PlayStation, even though it is on Xbox and even though it is on PC, it is kind of synonymous with PlayStation.
Yep, they made that deal forever ago.
Yeah, forever ago with the first game.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players on Xbox. There's a lot of players on PC. Of course, Bungie's already come out with this acquisition news and everything and have said that they're not going to be making this exclusive. They're still going to be multi-platform.
Right.
Which is the same thing going for Microsoft in terms of Call of Duty. A lot of people were worried that Call of Duty was going to become exclusive to Xbox and PC, and you're never going to see another Call of Duty on PlayStation. But you're spending so much money on these things, right? And it's like if Disney, right, went and, you know, they bought Star Wars. They have Marvel. If they were like, you're only going to be able to ever see Marvel stuff on Disney+. Never in theaters ever again.
Yeah.
Never on Blu-ray, only on Disney+. It's stupid. Like, you're cutting off so much money.
You are. Any sort of, like, cash flow. And I think that's the thing with, well, interestingly enough, the announcement or, like, sort of the confirmation that Call of Duty was coming to PlayStation was after the Bungie deal with Sony was announced. So I think a few people were, you know, hypothesizing that Sony was almost, you know, passing the buck to Microsoft to see what they would say about it. But I think more than that, I just assume like it's kind of like a Minecraft situation, how much money Minecraft could make elsewhere. Call of Duty is going to make money with microtransactions, even if Call of Duty goes free to play, even if it, like the campaign or like the major games stop being yearly releases, there is always going to be money to be made. I just wonder, like, that was the machine that drove Activision, not the machine that drove Blizzard, but Call of Duty is consistently one of the biggest selling games, like, ever. Yeah. And that's money that Microsoft wants to make, and they want to keep earning, and they want to make that money by selling on other platforms. So, like, every time a PlayStation person buys Call of Duty, or a Crash 5 or a Spyro whatever, like, it's going to come to them.
Well, and you know what really I started thinking about, especially what you were talking about right then in terms of making money, you know, a lot of people are really upset from the Bethesda acquisition, right? And a lot of people are upset that they're not going to be able to play Starfield on PlayStation or future Bethesda titles. Elder Scrolls 6, which now I'm not, with Call of Duty and their, like, Microsoft's approach to this deal, I'm not so sure Elder Scrolls is going to be Xbox exclusive, because like we said, how do you just leave all that money on the table. But Call of Duty is such a moneymaker that it can almost shore up any sort of losses that they would have by making it exclusive, while still, encouraging people to pick up an Xbox.
Right. Well, and my thing is, with the acquisition of Bethesda, or Elder Scrolls, how long have they been working on that? And even Starfield, the development costs for that, especially if they're doing a new engine with either of those games, that's so much sunk costs for Microsoft that, well, again, we're probably going to be seeing Game Pass go up. I know there's a lot of discussion on the price of Game Pass and how valuable it's going to be, because it's an insane value at this point, especially if Activision games start coming there across the board. There's a lot that they do and a lot that could be made free. But I think my grumpy person side about this has always been, Sony has these first-party studios that have put out these amazing games. Microsoft was struggling to have kind of an identity, especially with the Xbox One era. That now it just seems like their identity is Game Pass and buying everything.
Yeah, buying the things that people enjoy. To force other people to come to their ecosystem. It sucks, but it is a tactic.
Well, and is Game Pass ever going to come to Nintendo? Is it ever going to come to Sony?
Well, that's an interesting point, and honestly, all of Microsoft's acquisitions does set them up to never have to really need to make a console ever again.
Correct.
If they just become a subscription service where you can buy their games and they become the largest publisher in the world, and then you have just Nintendo and Sony to go to, I don't know, is that a better world? Is that, is that what we really want?
I don't
know.
I don't think that's what we want, because it's Microsoft. It's not I know Sony has different wings. They have TVs and they have their...
Well, so does Microsoft.
But Microsoft is a massive corporation. They make money off of every PC in the world that runs Windows. So if they're just going to gobble up everything, and I know there's been a lot of talk about, well, would you rather have Apple or Google or Amazon own these things? It's well, of course you wouldn't. But also, you don't want a mega corporation owning all of these things, because then there is no competition, and there's no incentive to be creative and do all these things. Competition is a good thing.
I think right now, it's all flowers right now, because people love Phil Spencer, right? He seems like a genuinely nice guy. He seems like he's that type to want to actually do cool shit in the gaming industry.
Right.
But you look at who was immediately before him, who
Don
Matrick, who went off to Zynga because he chases the money, right?
Take-Two owns them now, right?
Yeah, Take-Two owns.
Is Don Matrick still with Take-Two?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, they were losing money from him too. He's not. He chases the money.
He's a suit, not a gaming.
He's a suit, exactly. So what I'm looking at is, hey, Phil Spencer. I don't know how old he is off the top of my head, but he's going to be rich enough to probably retire and just do whatever the hell he wants. Within the next 15 years, 20 years, what happens after that? A lot of things can happen. A lot of things have happened even in the last 5 years. But it sets up an interesting question of, they now own all this IP. What if they're like, okay, well, now we're actually going to go towards the evil corporation side of things, where we're not going to do cool things. We're just going to chase the money.
Well, and that's the other thing, is that they do have that whole backlog of games that they can mine. I think one of the big things is now they have their own potential Uncharted. They can have more racing games, because I'm sure Activision, they can do so many things. And it's are they going to, and are they just going to hire more? Because eventually there's going to be so many games that need to be made, or that they might try and make Guitar Heroes and all these things.
God,
are they going to make new studios?
You look at some of the IPs that they've, we just brought up Pitfall, and you were like, oh, they might have an Uncharted competitor. Can you imagine if they announced Pitfall and it looked like an Uncharted game?
Yeah, I'd be like,
they'd get laughed out.
Instead of a Nathan Drake, you have a Harry. Because it's Pitfall Harry.
That would be awful.
It would be terrible.
It would be terrible. Yeah.
There's a reason they spent that much money.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
The Spyro and Crash thing have me intrigued. Yes. I want to see Toys for Bob and Vicarious Visions have another shot at coming back And Crash 4, It's About Time or something like
Yep.
that. Great game. That was like
fantastic.
a return to form for the Crash series. And then they were shuffled into becoming a Call of Duty and Diablo support studio.
Yeah.
That sucks, man. So having them go back and flex their creative muscles is something that I'm looking forward to seeing. They own Tony Hawk now.
Yeah.
They have the Tony Hawk Pro Skater franchise. EA is in active development right now for Skate. Put them on a new Tony Hawk game that revolutionizes shit.
Yeah. Well, one of my things
all I'm
is
saying.
now with all of this happening, are like indie developers going to be scared of Microsoft? Are EA and Ubisoft going to start being more buddy with PlayStation? Because I'm sure they now see Microsoft more as competition rather than a partner to work with.
Right.
So there might be more money to work with PlayStation, more incentive to do it, because like we said, like with Game Pass, they're not going to be able to be like, oh, hey, day one, you're going to get this major release from this major publisher on Game Pass, because I just don't see like the money in it now.
Yeah. Well, we don't know what the deal is for these games
That's
on
true.
Game Pass. Outriders is a great example, right? Look how many players were in like the first 2 weeks of Outriders.
Right.
But it's dropped significantly off.
Yeah.
Like it's gone.
Right.
Like nobody plays that game anymore. Even though I think it has new DLC coming out.
I think so. Rainbow Six came out this year.
Rainbow Six, same
I
thing.
was shocked that was day one. I get it, because Ubisoft maybe wants to inject a player base into it that might move to PC or whatever. So like when the game is taken away, but even then, like if those people are like, I've had enough of this game, they're not going to come back to it. And will they have earned enough in like microtransactions, word of mouth to make that deal seem good?
I think it's one of those things for all these companies in terms of Game Pass, and possibly whatever, by the time we're done with this season, I imagine we're going to see whatever Project Spartacus is from PlayStation.
I think so.
I imagine we'll see what that is, so you stay tuned on that one.
Like some pre-E3 buzz for Sony.
Yeah, but it's a risk analysis for these companies to look at, we're going to put this game on Game Pass. Like, is there any benefit to us? Because all of these games that we've talked about, I don't think we're going to sell very well. Rainbow Six Extraction,
Correct.
I really don't think was going to sell well. It was really flying under the radar. It already had like the naming problem of being called Rainbow Six Quarantine originally. And, the whole COVID situation kind of changed that.
That old chestnut.
Yeah, that old chestnut. Nobody. I don't know. It's one of those things that Game Pass is an awesome value right now, but we'll see if Microsoft can still leverage everything. They may not need to. They have enough IP now. They may not need to.
Yeah,
but your point about the other developers maybe wanting to partner with Sony, right, is very intriguing to me, especially in terms of the Bungie deal. Because Bungie, who through and through have said they are remaining independent, even though they're being purchased by Sony, which is interesting. So it's like, we don't know how that looks. Like, do they still own the IP? Do they have the option of buying themselves out if they don't like the deal? Like,
I would assume so. They originally, I don't know what the deal with Halo was, but I was listening to something that made the good point that Bungie wanted to leave Microsoft.
Yeah.
And then they wanted to leave Activision, so they obviously value their independence. There was like $1 million or $1.5 billion incentive for employees at Bungie to stay for a certain amount of time as a part of that agreement with their. And I think part of that is because Sony wants to have those developers on call when they're making things, or being like, hey, we have Bungie is going to help bring in other developers who want in on the live services.
They were probably looking at it like, hey, you are a talented team too. We know you're going to do cool things. We know. Undoubtedly, they know what they're working on, right? They know what Destiny 3 looks like, or if that is a thing, or whatever. They're working on another game too.
Yeah, they had a deal with a Chinese company, I think, that they invested in that they're going to make a game for. I don't know if that's done now or what.
Who knows?
But I think when I first saw this, I had to assume that Bungie is going to be making a single-player Destiny game at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to have a creative story-driven game because their writers and their lore are so good. Why not like, or Sony could be like, hey, we want you to make like an exclusive shooter
Yeah.
for us,
Yeah.
and here's money, you're a part of us, whatever.
Yeah.
But of course, the other thing is Bungie wants like Destiny movies or TV shows, and I
Yeah,
think,
big time.
and Sony knows that they can make money off that because
Yeah.
Destiny is such a big brand now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if like today Sony premiered a new, there's like
Yeah,
that
I saw
PlayStation
that,
Studios logo or whatever,
yeah.
and that thing is like nice,
cool.
sexy looking. So
Astrobot's in it.
yeah, and imagine when they've got any Destiny character on that,
Oh,
and you're going to the
yeah.
theaters or there's a deal with HBO or Paramount Plus to compete with Halo or something.
I can see it now because HBO has been making a lot of big time moves in terms of wanting big name shows. There's the HBO Last of Us show, and HBO wants another Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think The Last of Us is going to be that, because I have a feeling The Last of Us, because Neil Druckmann is in majority control of that show,
Yeah.
it's going to be like a 1 or 2 season one-off show. After that, though, HBO is going to want something big.
Yeah.
What's bigger than a Destiny show that can compete with the Halo show? It's a big sci-fi show that there isn't really anything else kind of like that other than
Right.
Halo, which I think is going to flop. But
They got a second season. It's signed up for a second season now.
yeah, okay, sign
Most
up for a
things
second
are.
season, whatever. We'll see about that too.
Yeah.
We'll see. It took forever for the first season to even come to fruition, so
Right.
we'll see if a second season happens. But a Destiny show would be huge.
It would be like a sci-fi Game of Thrones, I think.
Yeah, a sci-fi Game of Thrones, and you don't need a movie. A
Right.
show would be awesome. More people now, more than ever, are watching shows over movies anyway. So, hell yeah, I'd be in for that. Even like I know it's going to happen, is a Horizon movie. I know it's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
Uncharted is not reviewing very well.
Shock.
Yeah. But Horizon is like, okay, Jurassic World has its final movie coming out. This summer.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a gap there for dinosaurs, right?
It's a fair point.
Okay, you bring in robot dinosaurs, you cast some upcoming actress, to play Aloy, somebody who can play the role for 10
Couple
years,
yeah.
Something like that.
Mila Jovovich.
No. Don't give it to Roland Emmerich.
Yeah.
Whatever you do,
Right.
don't do that. It's Paul Anderson. It's not W.S. Anderson. It's
I think it's Paul W.S. Anderson.
Is
and
it-
then there's Paul No,
W-
you're thinking Paul Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. Yeah.
You're confusing
Paul
them.
Wes Anderson is the good one.
Yeah.
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yes.
Who is not. But I think that would be really cool. But yeah, what about some of these other acquisitions? Like, what could we see next?
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Like, From Software, we've already mentioned. Elden Ring comes out in a
Yes.
week and a half. Bloodborne 2, people want.
Mm-hmm.
People are clamoring for it.
It seems like the most obvious choice, and you think that they would have
Yeah.
the incentive to put a big number out, buy
Right.
it from Namco. I mean, Sony could buy Namco, or they could buy another
That'd be
Japanese
huge.
company.
Yeah.
I think the one that I've thought the most about is Square,
Yeah,
partially because Square has the Avengers
right.
and Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think, and they also have Final Fantasy 14, so they could
Right.
have that exclusive console PC MMO.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, if whatever deal Square worked out with Marvel, whoever they talked to that got them to fall in love with,
Yeah.
like their ideas, and Guardians of the Galaxy again, my game of the year last
Sure.
year, phenomenal game. But if they were purchased by Sony or whatever, Sony would have this monopoly over Marvel
Yeah.
with
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man and Wolverine, and then
yeah.
I think there is the potential there for Sony to be like, hey, we make great single-player games, and now we have the potential to make a really great live service game. And
knew
they
you
could
were
do
going
an
here.
X-Men game, and I'm not saying like this
I was
is
about
what-
to be like, you're like, oh, we have Bungie. We know how big of a failure Avengers was.
I mean, but kind of, honestly. But like it was an attempt. It was a fun game, but like it
Right.
stumbled a lot.
Yeah.
But with how, and I don't really think the Marvel flame is going to go out anytime soon. I think there's just so much that's got a couple decades of legs.
Yeah.
At least. So why not Sony try and be the place where you play Marvel games?
And Disney and Marvel have been very happy with Sony. And I'm kind of surprised, and I guess it's just because Star Wars and Marvel are two separate entities, but I am surprised we haven't seen, other than the exclusive or timed exclusive for Knights of the Old Republic remake.
Right.
I'm surprised we haven't seen like an original Star Wars game given to a Sony studio.
It could be happening though. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that's true.
It could be happening. One of their studios could be working on it.
Could be
Who
the Jade
knows?
Raymond game.
Yeah.
We don't know. I mean, it could be what's the first-person shooter studio? That Fire Sprite. I think that
Maybe.
Is that what their name is?
There's a Fire Sprite and another Fire thing. I can't remember.
Yeah, but it's from all the old Call of Duty devs. I can't remember exactly, but that could be a Star Wars game.
Yep.
That would be wild. That would be wild. But I think the From Software one is an interesting one, and especially based on the Bungie deal, they could literally go to them and be like, "Hey, you can remain independent.
Yep.
You can, if you'd like, go and publish on Xbox. Whatever, we don't care, but." We'd still want Bloodborne 2.
Right.
We'd still like your consultation on some other games. Either get Miyazaki and say, hey, can you be like creative director on, a SOCOM reboot? Like, what does that look like? Like something.
A Resistance
Legacy
game.
of Kain. Legacy of Kain. What does a Miyazaki take on Legacy of Kain look like? Wild. Like
or Miyazaki take on Twisted Metal.
Twisted,
which is probably already in the
that'd be
making.
Awesome.
I mean, Twisted Metal is already happening. It's
Yeah.
gonna be one of those 10 games that they're working on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that would be great. Like you said, Square Enix would be an interesting one. I think, again, I don't think Sony has the cash to just straight up buy them like Microsoft could. But another point that we have to make through all of this, these companies have to say yes.
That's true.
They can say no. They can, like, there's that old story of Microsoft trying to buy Nintendo way back when, and Nintendo laughed them out of the room.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's just
fair.
like...
Unless, like, I mean, isn't there something with... I've heard fiduciary duty as a term that I don't understand.
I don't know what that word
But,
is.
like, there is some maybe shareholder obligation to where, like, if the money was there, they have to consider something. I don't know. That's the dark world, though. We don't want to go there.
Yeah.
But and Nintendo, of course, I know they went on record saying like we're not going to be doing these. No one ever thought Nintendo was going to be making acquisitions. Like, I don't think that was in anybody's.
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to do their own thing. They're going to sell an old console with like Pokemon looking like dog shit on.
Hey man, I think Pokemon's actually pretty awesome.
But it looks terrible.
It does look awful. It looks awful, and would that look better if it was on like a PS5 or something? Hell yeah, it would.
Anything else on a Switch Pro?
Well, that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
I haven't even started it, only because I've been so preoccupied with Horizon Forbidden West, which I think we're just going to go ahead and segue right on into. So let's start off here with our Horizon Forbidden West review. So Horizon Forbidden West is a masterclass in open world game design that is an absolute joy to play. You can go read my review now over on digitalchumps.com, but for this segment of the show, we're just going to discuss some things that I'm able to elaborate on. I'm sure Ben has tons of questions, especially about the story, which I have a lot of thoughts on. Rest assured, this is a spoiler-free discussion of Horizon Forbidden West. Ben.
Yes.
Ask away, my friend. I'm going to remain spoiler-free.
Yeah,
even though I've seen some reviews out there, looking at Bloomberg, that have spoiled some of the in-game, not reveals, but gameplay elements, which sucks. Jason Schreier, if you're listening to this, that sucks, dude. Like,
really?
Why'd you have to spoil it?
Well, because he's too cool for school.
Yeah,
he's
whatever.
Bloomberg now. That guy was running for president.
Right. Anyway, that's besides the point. Yeah, go ahead.
So first, what did you give the game, Alex?
I gave it a 9 out of 10, which is amazing
Yeah.
on the Digital Chumps scale. I was kind of conflicted. I kind of went back and forth between either an 8.5, 8.5, or a 9, because I don't do the whole 8.6, 8.7.
I get it, yeah.
I'm not that guy.
That's fair.
But a 9, and I really do think, gameplay-wise and visual-wise, it is one of the most impressive games I've ever played, right? Moment to moment is just exciting. It's fun. It's like the first game was kind of slow paced. Like you spent a lot of time in stealth and like setting up a trap and monitoring where machines are going to go. This game is way more fast paced. It's wanting to put you into the action of scan the machine, see where the weak parts are, jump in, zip up to a pole, launch in the air, and then slow-mo down as you shoot arrows into it. Okay. It's kinetic. It's fast. It never misses a beat in terms of fun.
Yeah.
Right? And that's like what I love the most about it. It's story, though. It's story. The more I go back and think about it, right? And I know there's a lot of people who I always do this thing, and I know you do too. When we review games, we go back and like listen to other podcasts or read other reviews on what other people think. There's some people who have said that they've cried during the story, and without spoiling anything, I'm not entirely sure where they would have done that.
Okay, that's fair.
Because there are a few moments that are absolutely unearned. And there are several characters that are criminally underutilized.
That's the one thing that I'm interested in. Though I've heard, I don't know if it would be a spoiler to say like,
sure.
Regalia or whatever.
Okay, so
she's voiced by Angela Bassett, which I did not know until I was reading reviews.
So it's been revealed. So this is all prior knowledge. Unless you're completely radio silent on this, the main enemy in the game is Regala, right? Played by Angela Bassett, right? And then you have Carrie-Anne Moss, who is another character in the game who I will not discuss. But they are both in the game for a game that took me 46 hours to do all the side missions and all the main missions, and a few of the side activities as well. They are probably in the game less than an hour total. Together.
How many lines would you say that they would have? Because I think that's another important distinction.
So, Angela Bassett, maybe 15 lines.
That's crazy, especially if she's the main villain.
Maybe, and that's like me, just thinking of the lines off the top of my head. Now, Carrie-Anne Moss's character has a pretty significant dialogue tree that you can talk to her to get lore bits out of.
Okay.
So she probably has more lines, but in terms of scenes that she's in, again, those two characters combined less than an hour. And they're two of the most interesting characters in the game. And they're not even in it.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
So I think... And this is going back to your review and going back what you told me. Your point of comparison, at least the one you do in your review, is The Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
I remember the first time watching Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
I loved A New Hope. I don't know how I consumed the Star Wars movies for the first time, but I remember thinking that Emperor dude is super scary. Yeah. And he's only in the hologram, and it's not until Return of the Jedi where he plays a major role. So there's someone guiding Darth Vader and stuff like that. And that's cool. That's intrigue.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's Boba Fett who kidnaps Han Solo.
Oh, there's Boba Fett characters in this.
And
for sure.
You're like, what's going to happen to Han? Obviously they're not going to kill him, but what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And it does set up a lot of these threads and blows up the world in an even bigger way. Everything from your review and then other reviews I've read have spoken volumes about how great the side quests are, but a lot of people, and then a lot of people are saying that they enjoyed basically 2/3 of the story, and then the end is what kind of kills the momentum. And that's what I'm really curious about, because
the last 2 hours of the game feel. And I was listening to a podcast on the way over here. It's the Kind of Funny Games cast, their review of the game. Andy Cortez put it the best way in his analysis of the story. It really feels like the last 2 hours of the game is like a movie that was made during COVID, right?
Okay.
So it just, they know they don't have all the actors there. They know they don't have everything put together, but they need to finish it because this is all the time they have. That's exactly what this feels like.
Okay. That's interesting because that sucks, and I
Yeah.
can understand why. And I think like we've spoken about it, like it feels like it could be part of some DLC that comes out in a year from now.
Right.
Um,
Right.
It could be a part of the live service.
It could be
game
part
at
of the
that
live
point.
service. I don't think it's. I think
Yeah.
they are shaping up. This is definitely a middle chapter to a larger story.
Yeah.
My Empire Strikes Back comparison. There are twists in this game, right? They are twists that definitely perked up my ears,
Okay.
and I was just like, wow, I can't wait to see where this goes because it's awesome. Unfortunately, in my opinion, and there's a lot of people who disagree with me in their reviews, right? Some people absolutely love where the story goes.
Yeah.
I found that it was very, very puddle deep in terms of where the reveals led.
Okay. Yeah.
It's highly disappointing because I love these characters. And Aloy is a character, right? Wonderful. Like I love Aloy as a character and like what she struggled with in the first game.
Yeah.
In this game, they try to dive deeper into another part of who she is as a character,
Yeah.
but I really feel like at times the story pulls away from what they're trying to say about her as a character.
Okay.
Right, and I'm dancing this fine line because there's a lot of really cool moments that I obviously don't want to spoil.
Right.
Can't spoil, but yeah.
So, my thing with Horizon Zero Dawn, the first one.
Yeah.
I like obviously it's one of the better game worlds created in the past like decade or so.
Right.
I enjoy the like present day like Aloy's story and like the beats that took like dealing with other tribes. What I was more fascinated with and like intrigued by is like how we got here. Like what are these machines doing there? Like what's their purpose? And I remember, but I also tend to do this a lot in open world games like Assassin's Creed that have like those big lore dumps in them. Seek those out first because like that's the stuff I want to know.
Yeah. And this has that.
I
in
actively
droves.
I actively did that with Horizon, like where you would hear that one guy who was talking about like he was basically giving his like end of the world tour or something like that.
Oh yeah, like the hologram kind of thing. Yeah.
I love those things, and you told me that was in there, so I'm.
And a lot of that is elaborated in the side missions.
Yeah.
Which is why I think everybody enjoys those more because it's fleshing out the world a little bit more. It's seeing what this part of the world shaped up to be, like the Forbidden West, what it shaped up to be after the events of like everything that we know from the first game.
Right.
Which I'm trying not to spoil the first game, but I mean,
That's fair.
it's been out for 5 years, so. But I get it. It's
Right.
it's one of those games like if you haven't played it and you're interested in this, play that one first. You won't understand anything that's happening in this game unless you play the first game. It's very much a sequel. But yeah, the lore dumps are amazing.
Okay.
And the thing is, the main story too, at least in the first 2 or 3 hours, starts setting up like a continuation of that story that is intriguing and interesting, and you're like, I can't wait to see where this goes. But again, it just kind of fizzles out to nothing and becomes. I have another comparison that I'll say for the future of what I'm afraid Horizon is turning into.
I think this is the one I've been interested in knowing. Like, and you seemed hesitant to tell me because it might spoil something. But is it because you think it'll spoil something, or just because?
Okay, I'll say this in terms of tone.
Yeah.
Not obviously, this comparison is nothing to do with the plot, but in terms of tone, I'm afraid Horizon Zero Dawn is going to turn into Dragon Ball Z. Whereas
You lost me because I don't know.
but you know the idea of there always has to be a bigger, badder enemy.
Yes. Over 9,000.
That's all I'm going to say.
That's rough. Okay.
Right.
I mean, that's fair.
Like there's like a power creep. It's like okay, you start off on like this really like Horizon Zero Dawn, very tribalistic. Okay, well this Aloy has a little bit more skills and stuff, and she's facing a new enemy, yada yada yada.
Okay.
And then it's like, where do we go from here, right? And I'm afraid, possibly.
I mean, that's a crazy, bizarre presentation.
Well,
unless, and you don't have to say anything because, I mean, don't, things from space come from I know Goku and all that shit, but like in like Frieza or something like that.
Again, not in terms of plot.
Okay.
I'm not saying in terms of plot. I'm saying in terms of like the power level of like.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay, so perfect example. It's like the first game you have the Thunderjaw.
Yes.
The big, powerful machine. What can stop a Thunderjaw? It's a
Correct.
robot T-Rex. Mm-hmm. Okay, what do we got in this one? Okay, it's a giant robot Cobra.
Right.
So what can beat that? What can beat both of those things?
Scorpion.
Yeah, a scorpion.
We already had those.
But that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that the game is setting itself up to be this thing of us as fans have these expectations of, okay, we want a good story, but it's got to be better than the last thing, right? And I'm worried that this story is kind of setting that up. You know what I mean? Of like, oh, it's got to be better than the last thing. It's got to be better than the last thing. Instead of a Last of Us, right?
Yeah.
Or a God of War, where it's like, yes, you have these big bombastic things, but its story is inward.
Yeah.
It's not focused on what's happening out there. It's happening inwards.
Fair.
And they try to do that with Aloy and her character and who she is, but I just think it fell flat.
So I'm interested to know, like, if, hopefully not 5 years from now, I assume all the heavy lifting has been done on most parts of Horizon, where we might see that in 3 years or something like that.
Oh yeah, I would imagine.
But,
so the gameplay engine is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it is a beautiful, beautiful game. I played the first half of the game on performance mode, only because I have my PS5 set to prefer performance mode when loading a game. And it was great. I thought it looked beautiful, but when you flip it over to resolution mode and really get like all the textures, oh my God.
I'm jealous, yeah.
Does this game just shine?
I bet.
Like if you own a PS5, if you've had a chance to get your hands on a PS5, or if you've been waiting and you're gonna attempt to get a PS5, this is the game to buy.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like day one, easy.
Sorry. Yeah, that's fine. I was gonna say, if when the third game comes out and like maybe your fears are assuaged a little bit, it's not this whole power creep thing.
Sure.
Or it's done. It's done in a rational way. Like, hey, maybe the machine's found a way to combine forms. You've got like a
Voltron.
I mean, why not? You've got like a Cobra head with like a Thunderjaw.
That would be wild.
That would for the live service games, that's where that happens.
That's where the live service
Again, but if all that stuff sort of happens, but in a logical like way, if all these like things that they set up, would you look? And this is not necessarily fair to the current game, but would you look back on Forbidden West more fondly?
That's why I took off a point. Right, the game would probably be a 10 had the story fleshed out in a satisfactory way.
Yeah.
I took off a point because story is so important to this game, right? I mean, it's all lore. Like even the side, like everything is lore. Like even the side activities are lore. Like it's all about it. So I'm looking at the third game of having the opportunity to either redeem this story for me or kind of drop the ball a little bit more.
Okay.
Again, Star Wars, it's like Force Awakens. I enjoyed it. Was it a remake of A New Hope? Absolutely. Yes. But did it give me hope that maybe The Last Jedi could have blown open the doors? And to some people it did. For me, it personally fell flat. But that's what it is.
Are you worried there's like going to be a Snoke situation in the third game?
No, I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not. No, so I will say this. Like The Empire Strikes Back, I wasn't born. I don't know what the release of that movie was like.
Yeah.
But I imagine that there's a lot of people who were anticipating Return of the Jedi to look at, or looking at Empire like, oh, they set up all these crazy things. It's going to pay off everything. And for a lot of people, it did.
I think it did.
This could do that. Everything that they've set up in this game could be a massive red herring.
Yeah.
For what I'm expecting the third game to be.
Okay.
But I don't know. It just ends in, I don't know. I can't.
It's tough, yeah.
I can't wait till people play this game and we can talk about it because, damn, there's things I can talk about. But like,
yeah. Because I remember after that first one ended, I've never played the Frozen Wilds, so I know that's probably maybe some stuff left off. But I've seen some of the stuff that they've talked about, like a few of the reviews I've read,
Right.
like how they do tall necks like
Yeah.
differently. Like,
Yeah.
those are like events now.
Yeah.
So it seems like Guerrilla has been very capable of like learning lessons, like what makes things good, like what to improve upon.
So that's the thing. Everything from the first game, gameplay-wise, has been improved dramatically.
Yeah.
Cauldrons, right? You remember Cauldrons? They were fun in the
They were
first game.
and cool because they were the first time you saw them.
Yeah, it was like the first time you saw them, and they were like at the end, little mini boss fights and stuff like that. Yes, there are boss fights at the end of Cauldron still, but how you get to that boss fight, completely different.
That's cool.
Every single time it's different.
That's awesome.
And it fits within the story of why they're all different. It's really cool. It's fascinating how they do that. Tall necks. I love the tall neck scenes from the first game, just because of when you're finally at the top of the tall neck, you override it and you get your map cleared out. But then it's like this beautiful vista, and you get like this really high level view of everything. I thought it was going to be more of that, and it's so much more.
Yeah.
Like there is one tall neck override that I won't spoil because it's a special moment that I was just like, damn, this game is amazing. And it's moments like that. The story didn't do anything for me, but it's the gameplay moments.
Yeah.
The first time I came across a Slitherfang, which is the giant cobra, right? That boss fight, or it's a boss fight because it's one of the giant ones, right?
Right.
Awesome. Like, I mean, that thing is insanely cool. It hisses at you, it spits acid at you, like trying to figure out where to, like, what weak points to hit. Later on in the game, when you get like elemental arrows and you find out like which elemental parts to hit, and like, oh, it has like an acid sac on the side of its head that if you shoot, and if it blows up, it covers itself in acid and starts melting, and it's pissed at you, and it's coming at you, and dude, this game, like, there are moments in this game that my blood pressure was just like skyrocketing because I was just like tense from like being chased by certain things. Some of the machines that they haven't even revealed in like all the marketing materials yet.
Yeah, see, I'm curious.
Some
about the
of
stuff
them,
that
dude,
you haven't
are
seen.
just whoa. And one of them I saw, like, you're supposed to reveal some of the new machines through like cauldrons and stuff. That's where you're supposed to see them for the first time. I skipped over one of the cauldrons and saw it out in the wild for the first time. Seeing it out in the wild, I was like, I can't believe they're doing some shit like this. Like,
That's cool.
what the fuck? Like, is this? But yeah, man, it's a very special game. It's a very special game. I was talking about it with Nathan, right? Who also played through it. He agrees with me. I don't know if it's the best PS5 game you can get right now, but it's probably tied for first.
With Returnal?
Returnal. Yeah, like, Returnal is like just a very special game.
Yeah.
But this game is just so remarkable. Just remarkable how big it is, how beautiful it is, how dense it is. The foliage. Oh my
I
God, the
imagine
foliage.
it's incredible. Like,
It kind of got annoying. I'm not going to lie. The foliage was a little bit crazy at times because there were many moments that a machine was charging at me and I would try to dodge out of the way and get stuck between two boulders because there's boulders everywhere. So it's kind of hard to dodge and actually, I wish some more segments were a little bit more open, like an open plains kind of thing instead of
I get that.
trees everywhere that you're falling into but I think that's just meant to slow you down and make you feel less powerful. But I don't know.
Is it better than Breath of the Wild? Because apparently the first one was not as good as Breath of the Wild. So.
Okay.
Since they obviously borrowed the glider from Breath of the Wild.
Well, yeah. Okay. So the glider's really cool.
Yeah.
It is literally more. I used it a lot in combos of like grappling up. Like, okay, the pullcaster.
Yeah.
Right, is one of the new tools in the game. The pullcaster allows you to latch on to breakable objects in the world and pull them down to reveal new locations. So it's great for puzzles and things like that. But it also acts as a grappling hook. So that you can grapple up to different points to make climbing faster. They're always pre-designated points. Like, it's not like you can grapple up anywhere. but if you press circle right before in the middle of your grapple, right, you'll be flung up into the air, where you can either pull out your bow and start shooting, or you can hit your glider and glide down.
That's pretty cool.
It's really fun, and it makes gameplay feel a little bit more kinetic. But the glider I never really used. I used it in those circumstances to kind of chain together my getting away from a machine to lay down more traps. But I only ever used it to jump off a giant cliff to get back down to turn in a quest.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
I do, yeah.
it was fine. The world is so big that it needed that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But in terms of, is it better than Breath of the Wild? That's a tough question.
Did you miss having to drink potions to like cool yourself down or?
So it's a completely different game.
I know.
Right? It's a completely different game. Breath of the Wild is pretty much just a survival game.
Yeah.
Yeah. This tries to act like it's a survival game. Like you're trying to craft health potions or elemental potions or craft arrows. You always need to craft new arrows for your
Wasn't there like
kit.
sort of a mode like that, like post-release on Zero Dawn? I know they had a New Game Plus, but I can't remember if they did like a survival kind of mode.
I don't know. I just know New Game Plus was harder in terms of machine difficulty. But I don't know. They're two different games. I can't really. People like to compare them because they came out around the same time. I think it's unfair. But
I know. I think it is. I think
yeah.
Horizon may have got shafted that year, but
I don't know.
It's the eternal debate.
I look at Pokemon Legends Arceus, right, visually, and it's running on the same engine that Breath of the Wild did, and Breath of the Wild looks 10 times better than that game.
Yeah.
And I'm just amazed how they were able to
What are they doing with all that money?
How were they able to make Breath of the Wild look that good, run that well on the Switch at launch? It's not like this is the end of the Switch life cycle.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of that, it's just
called Wii U porting.
Yeah, I guess.
Because they were working on the game for probably a long time on the Wii U,
Yeah.
and then they're just like, well, it's.
Yeah, but Horizon Forbidden West, it's an amazing game. Too early to say if it's going to turn into a live service or get a multiplayer thing. Ghost of Tsushima came out, right?
I made the argument to you
Yeah.
a couple days ago that Ghost of Tsushima, I don't think they announced their Legends mode until way after the game came out.
It was like a month or two after.
Yes, so there's the chance that that could happen.
It could
even if it's small. Like I think Legends
Yeah.
brought a lot of people back to it months later that were like, oh, let me come back to this game, or here's an excuse to pick it up now. That and that could happen with Horizon.
Well, I would say this. If they decided to do DLC for this game, in terms of where the story leaves off, again, no spoilers.
Yeah.
A live service game in the style of a Ghost of Tsushima Legends would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make sense necessarily. I could see how they could make it as like another Aloy story DLC, like Frozen Wilds.
Yeah.
But I really think.
Well, I proposed to you that it would be like a good way to just do character backstories and like more lore dumps just by like you get like you complete certain thresholds and they're like, oh hey, this is what happened 200
and I mean
years ago.
there's enough new tribes in the game. I think I'm not gonna say how many, but there's enough that you can have enough classes that are all very different from each other to make it worthwhile as a live service multiplayer DLC kind of component that doesn't live forever, that lives until the next Horizon game.
Right.
I think that could work. But I also want to say that like we mentioned it earlier, I think the next Horizon game is probably really close. As in like, so it's 2022 now.
Yeah.
I'm going to say by 2025,
I think that's fair.
we would know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you remember when Uncharted Lost Legacy came out after 4? Was it 2?
Yeah, it was like 2 years later. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, they have a knack of doing like the whole Uncharted Lost Legacy, Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Yeah.
So they could go that route again with whatever the future of Horizon looks like in terms of if there's like a middle game that they could do, which they could. I don't know. Because you wouldn't do Aloy, right? You would do it as another character within that world.
Yeah.
And there's some that would be interesting, but none that I'm like, would be dying to play as.
Right.
Spider-Man ended. I wanted to play as Miles Morales.
Well, of course.
Right? Like, that was like...
That's how they set that up.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
And then, like, same thing for Uncharted. Like, Nadine...
Nadine and Chloe.
Yeah, that's a cool story.
It makes sense, yeah.
There's not really that.
But I think they wouldn't, because Aloy is the flagship for Horizon. They wouldn't want to take away from her journey. They would want to make it like some other stuff.
Right. It's a phenomenal game, man.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward.
I will play it soon, I hope.
I'm really looking forward to you playing it, everybody else playing it. You and I, of course. I want to do like a spoiler cast. We probably won't do it here.
Yeah,
we'll probably do it over Discord or something.
Yeah.
Probably with Nathan. Probably in the next like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Give you enough time to sit down and... I mean, it's a huge ass game, so I would understand if there's like a month from now, like we don't do the spoiler cast.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's a special game. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Rated M for Mature. If these were the topics for the first episode of the season, I can only imagine what's going to happen in the next few weeks. As always, you can find us over on YouTube and Twitch, and be sure to check out all of our reviews at digitalchumps.com. As always, I've been Alex Suter for Ben Sheen. We will see you next time.